Today, I'm going to beat Pokemon Crystal with only a Koffing. This is going to be my first Johto video with a first stage Pokemon, and I am really hoping that that is going to make this game more difficult. After all, I've been noticing that in these games, my results are all sort of clustering together around the 1 hour and 35 minute mark. So why did I choose to do a playthrough of Koffing today? Well, I figured that because it didn't perform particularly well in Pokemon Yellow, after all, it's right near the bottom of my tier list for that game. Maybe it's also going to be really difficult to use in this game. Or perhaps this cute little poisonous puffball will get the redemption that it so desperately desires. Now, before we get going with this playthrough, I just want to mention a couple of fixes that I've made to my overlay. First of all, I've moved the item up closer to my moveset, so it's a little bit easier to reference when I'm in a battle. Also, I'm now including the growth rate for the Pokemon in the bottom left, as well as all the stats, but this time I've actually moved speed to the bottom right-hand corner so that it's more of an analog to how I show the opponent's stats when I'm in key battles. So, since we're talking about stats, let's talk about Koffing's base stats, which are actually pretty decent for a first stage Pokemon. It has 40 HP, 65 attack, 95 defense, 60 special attack, 45 special defense, and 35 speed. So it's a slow physical defender with decent attack and special attack. So why did it fare so badly in Pokemon Yellow? Well, it was because of its move pool, and unfortunately for Koffing, it doesn't get much better in Generation 2. Like, yes, there is Sludge Bomb in this generation, but no, of course Koffing does not learn it through level up. It gets Poison Gas and Tackle to start with, which are not good moves. And then just because it already lacks accuracy, it gets Smog at level 9. This move has 70% accuracy, so I don't think I'm going to be using it very much. Now I'll mention here that Koffing gets Self-Destruct, Explosion, and Destiny Bond, and all three of these moves are not going to be useful for a solo playthrough. For me, it just feels very wrong to win a fight because my HM mules survived, even though Koffing knocks itself out, say on the last Pokemon of the fight. So yeah, I am not going to be using any of these moves today. Through TM and HM, Koffing gets access to Curse, Rollout, Zap Cannon, Sunny Day, Thunder, Sludge Bomb, Fire Blast, Rest, and Thief. And then using the move tutors, it gets Flamethrower and Thunderbolt. Of course, it also gets access to Return, but notably Swift and Headbutt are missing, and Koffing is basically a floating head, so I am not sure why it doesn't get access to Headbutt. I did check this thing's weight, by the way, and it is one of the lightest Pokemon in existence, so maybe it's supposed to sort of be like a gas molecule, like a poisonous gas molecule, and because of that it doesn't get Headbutt. I guess that makes sense. I streamed my first attempt with Koffing on Twitch. By the way, that stream archive is available to everyone who is supporting me through YouTube memberships or on Patreon. I asked the chat what a good nickname for Koffing was, and one of the suggestions was Coffee, and I thought this was just perfect. Also, look at this mug. I want this mug so badly. It is so cute. Now, just in case you don't know, I was able to pick Koffing as one of my starters because I used the Universal Pokemon Randomizer. By the way, there is a link in the description of all of my videos so that you can get this program if you're interested in using it yourself. One of the choices that I have to make then is which starter do I replace with Koffing? And I chose to replace Chikorita. After all, being hit by grass-type moves as a poison type is not going to be particularly challenging, but I thought that if I faced the Cyndaquil line, it would be the hardest, since once it evolves to Typhlosion for the final fight, it does get access to Flame Wheel. The Feraligatr only has Water Gun in that fight, so I was figuring that this would be the most challenging rival to go up against. And instead, I made things much more challenging on myself, because I didn't heal before this fight. I just completely forgot. And as soon as it started and Koffing had half health, I was like, okay, please have a berry. No, of course I do not have a berry. So, yes, the first Cyndaquil does defeat me. The nice thing with this fight, though, is that you can just proceed with the game even if you lose, so it's not the end of the world. Plus, I always do follow-up playthroughs in my videos, and that's so that I can correct for these silly user errors. Still, if Koffing performs anywhere near how it performed in Pokemon Yellow, I don't think that this is even gonna matter. Its time is just gonna be so bad. Needless to say, I am battling every trainer on my way to Violet City. I need as much experience as is possible, and during this I have to backtrack to Cherry Grove City, because Koffing is really not very good. It is not doing very much damage with Tackle. You might wonder if using Poison Gas to poison the opponent might speed up my results, but no, that's really not a good idea. That move has 55% accuracy, so it's basically a coin flip. It's kind of like Hypnosis, but much worse because the opponent can still attack you. Just before Violet City, I catch myself a Bellsprout. Nice. And then I head into Sprout Tower. Now, Bellsprout is a grass type, but it also has the poison typing, so yes, even in this case, Smog is not as good as Tackle. Even when Smog gets the same type attack bonus, Tackle still has higher base power, and obviously much better accuracy. The only reason you'd want to use Smog is because it has a 40% chance of poisoning the target. So let's say it's super effective and you want to do damage and potentially poison the opponent, then maybe it's worth the risk. But this move has the same accuracy as Thunder. Yes, the move that Koffing learns at level 9 that has 20 base power. This move is so bad. This move, as well as Poison Gas, just might be some of the worst moves in the entire game. At the top of the tower, I face the Sage, and by the way, in my last video, I said that Birdkeeper Abe, the first trainer in Faulkner's gym, had the highest level Pokemon in the game to this point, but I forgot about this Hoot Hoot that is level 10. Yeah, honestly, this thing is pretty forgettable. The Spearow is actually much scarier, so yeah, the Hoot Hoot might be the highest leveled Pokemon to this point. Actually, it is a higher level than all of Faulkner's Pokemon. Are you supposed to do Sprout Tower after Faulkner? As a kid, I never did things in that order, and that's why I always do them in this order when I'm doing solo playthroughs. You might wonder, why not just skip Sprout Tower entirely because you don't actually need Flash to beat the game? But I've kind of made it an unofficial rule of these playthroughs that I always do Sprout Tower. After all, I really do not want to navigate Mount Silver when I can't see where I'm going. So with the Sage out of the way, let's head into the gym. And after I defeat all the trainers in here, my Koffing is level 13, which is perfect because it's just over a damage rounding threshold. This is sort of becoming one of my taglines in my videos. Anyways, let's take Faulkner on. He leads with a level 7 Pidgey, and this thing is not to be underestimated because today I am a poison type, and so it knows that Mud Slap is super effective, and as a result it is just going to spam it, which is a problem for Koffing because my accuracy is already low enough. Also, I'm not doing very much damage. It looks like Pidgey is going to be a 3 hit, and luckily for me, I actually land all 3 tackles despite getting hit by 2 Mud Slaps. Okay, so normally when the AI lowers your accuracy, you just miss all of your moves until the end of the fight. However, maybe that's not how it's going to go for Koffing. Let's move on to the Pidgeotto. One thing I do want to note here is that I'm not actually taking that much damage, and the Pidgeotto's AI apparently is going to prioritize Gust instead of Mud Slap, so that's nice. Also, because of a berry, Koffing is able to heal up, and this gives it just enough time to be able to knock out Faulkner's Ace Bird. And with that, I have earned myself the Zephyr Badge, and with it comes a 12.5% boost to my attack stat, as well as a 12.5% boost to all flying type moves. Yes, there are type-based badge boosts in Generation 2, and no, they will not be particularly useful for Koffing, because its poison-type moves do not get a type-based boost until I beat Janine. And because of how I order things in Kanto, she is going to be the last gym leader that I face before Blue. However, there is a way to make up for this, because just before Union Cave, there is this girl. Her name is Frida, by the way. She's only here on Fridays, and if you talk to her, she'll give you the Poison Barb, which is a held item that increases the power of poison-type moves by 10%. By the way, I accidentally equipped the Bitterberry here, so whoops. But in the future, when I'm holding an item that boosts the damage of one of my moves, you'll see this impact their effective power up here in my moveset. If you want to check what the move's base power is, just look over at the move pool on the right-hand side of the screen. In Union Cave, there is this spinning trainer. By the way, you can actually use the bag trick in Generation 2 to pause their motion, and that allows me to sneak by him horizontally, but I also have to do it vertically, and that maneuver is very tricky on 4 times speed. Anyways, I mess it up a little bit and he catches me, which is really annoying because now I have to defeat 3 Geodudes with Koffing. I decided to use Poison Gas here because I really didn't think Tackle would do that much, but this Geodude is level 4, so it's actually doing decent damage. So that fight wasn't as much of an issue as I thought it would be. I finish off the rest of the trainers in Union Cave, then I dodge Hiker Anthony just because Koffing's at kind of low health, and now I've made it to Azalea Town. During this section of the game, there's actually quite a bit of experience on the table because I can defeat all the Rockets in Slowpoke Well. After that, I defeat all the trainers in Bugsy's gym, and I was hoping that this would level Koffing up to level 21, but unfortunately it's only level 19. So I backtrack to Hiker Anthony and fight him. After that, I'm almost level 20, and I think it just makes sense to defeat wild Pokemon here so that I'm level 20, which is over a damage rounding threshold, before I face Bugsy. He leads with a Metapod, and it's kind of annoying for Koffing to knock out because it takes a total of 4 hits. At least it can't really do that much damage to me. Kakuna's next, and this thing is going to be equally annoying. It's going to probably take 4 hits once again. And yes, it does. So now it's time for the Scyther. And while Koffing does resist its Fury Cutter, it's going to build up power over successive uses, and because of that I'm actually quite worried about it. Plus, Koffing is doing less than inspiring damage with Tackle. And here it becomes very apparent to me that I am not going to be able to do this without leveling up one more time and learning the move Sludge. This move was the most powerful poison type move in Generation 1, and it actually had a 40% chance of poisoning the target in those games, but starting in Generation 2 it only has a 30% chance to poison the target. So I trained in the wild a little bit until Koffing's level 21, and with this powerful same type attack bonus move, I am ready to face Bugsy again. With the assistance of the Poison Barb, I one-shot the Metapod. By the way, in this game, Bug-type Pokemon are not weak to Poison-type moves. I was just doing a lot of damage with this move. Next is Kakuna, and even though it resists Sludge, this move is still much better than Tackle. After all, it has 100% accuracy. It is so nice to have a move that won't miss with Koffing. So I'm moving back onto the Scyther. I was very confident here, but Koffing was even more confident because it lands a critical hit and one-shots Bugsy's ace. Okay, so that's good. We are moving on to the next portion of the game. However, in my way is the rival, and he leads with a Ghastly. If you don't know this, it actually has a double resistance for poison-type moves. Yes, the Ghost-type actually resists poison-type moves. A lot of people actually seem confused about this in the comments, but I really do think it makes sense because, like, you can't really poison a ghost. Luckily for me in this fight, the only damage dealing move that the Ghastly knows is Lick, so even if I get put to sleep, it doesn't really matter, and I end up two-shotting it with Sludge because Koffing gets another critical hit. Next, the rival sends in Zubat, and it's another poison type, so it resists my Sludge. But Zubat's weak, so I take it out over 2 turns, and then he sends in Quilava. I could be burnt here by Ember and have my attack stat cut, but it doesn't end up happening. I take it out over 2 turns, and with that, I am moving on to Goldenrod City. Now in most of my playthroughs, this is where I start to cut trainers, because usually just fighting all of the early game trainers and then defeating Bugsy has given me the level advantage that I need to defeat most of Johto. After all, these games have really wonky level curves. But since Koffing is just so bad, I am going to fight all of the trainers here. By the way, I said Koffing's bad, but I actually love this thing. It is so cute. That's actually why I chose it, because I was like, it is going to both perform poorly in the game and I really like it. So because this is the first video of the year, let's talk about what I do in Goldenrod City. After all, there are a lot of errands here. So first I head into the underground. Here I defeat all the trainers for experience. I also want to pick up the coin case here. After that, I buy myself an Abra, which is useful for teleporting around the map. I've clarified the rules, just saying that I can use HM mules to navigate the overworld in any way that speeds up my progress. After all Pokemon have access to these tactics, so I don't really think it helps differentiate one Pokemon from the other. After that, I head north, I pick up Kenya, which is a great flying type Pokemon, and then I defeat all of the trainers on the next route. I want Koffing to have as many levels as possible. This excursion is concluded when I talk to Floria and then teleport back to Goldenrod City. I head into the gym, defeat the trainers, and now it is time to take on Whitney. She leads with Clefairy, and the Fairy type does not exist in this game, so Sludge is not going to be doing super effective damage here. Luckily, it does one-shot, and I move on to the Miltank. So what I'm really hoping for here is that I can take it out fast enough that Rollout doesn't gain power. However, it looks like this is not going to be an issue because Koffing takes so little damage on the first 2 turns. Miltank then misses its Rollout, and I knock it out. So that was an easy 3rd badge. And earning this one is really nice because it gives a 12.5% boost to my speed stat, and Koffing desperately needs that. Also, it gives a 12.5% boost to normal type moves, and this is going to make Return much more useful later on in the playthrough. But I'll talk about that when it becomes relevant. For now, let's head towards Ecruteak City. On my way, I have to defeat Sudowoodo, and this is actually not particularly easy for Koffing because poison type moves are not very good against this rock type Pokemon. Either way, I still do manage to win. Now, in Ecruteak City, when you go into the Pokemon Center, you have to talk to Bill, and as a kid, I remember this dialogue here being so annoying. I just want to heal my Pokemon. I do not want this guy interrupting my journey. Oh, poor summer child. I had no idea what Game Freak had in store for me. You might wonder if just skipping this Pokemon Center entirely would be a good choice, but I don't want to do that because if I hop down this little ledge just south of the city, I can then talk to this kid who gives me the Magnet, which could boost Thunderbolt's power later on in the game. After that, I can use Abra to teleport back to Ecruteak City, and that's specifically because I went into the Pokemon Center. But today I'm not going to do that quite yet because I realized that I forgot two important items. Number one is the TM for rollout, and the other one is the hardstone, which works perfectly in combination with this move. And after that I have a choice. I have three options now. I can go to the Lake of Rage and pick up hidden power, I can go to the burn tower and face the rival, or I could go to the lighthouse and continue my training. Of them, I think I want to try to face the rival in burned tower, and immediately he sends out Haunter and I was just like, oh no, this is bad. This thing is gonna get curse off and like, what am I gonna do? It actually outspeeds, which is even worse, and then Sludge does very little. I take curse damage. I do knock it out on the next turn, but then he sends in Magnemite and it's like, okay, I have to use Tackle against this thing. So there is no way that I'm going to win this fight with Koffing. Let's go and do something else. I head through Mount Mortar to the Lake of Rage, and now I want to discuss Hidden Power because I recently did a poll asking you all what you thought about this move in my playthroughs. Throughout the end of 2022, I was really feeling that this move was becoming too centralized in the meta of my challenges. Like every Pokemon just grabbed Hidden Power as soon as it could, and then this move solved all of the tricky opponents throughout the rest of the game. Personally, I don't think that makes these videos very fun to play. I also was assuming that it didn't make the videos very fun to watch, but a lot of you actually like the fact that I use Hidden Power. However, because I read all of the comments, I got some additional insight into how this move could be used in my playthroughs in a more interesting way. So what I'm going to do from now on is I'm not going to use Hidden Power in my first playthrough with the Pokemon, and then for my optimized playthrough, I will select the Hidden Power type that benefits the Pokemon the most. One of you raised concern about how this doesn't give me experience with Hidden Power in the first playthrough, but I really don't think that matters. After all, the routing software that I'm using really allows me to explore all of the damage ranges in depth. Like, I can see what the impact is of losing some DVs to get a Hidden Power of a different type, and then I can test Hidden Power of all the different types against all of the important opponents, and really see what the best choice is for each Pokemon. So you might be wondering, if Hidden Power is banned, Scott, why are you picking it up right now? Well, that's because I filmed this playthrough a little while ago before I had made the decision to ban Hidden Power in first playthroughs. But spoiler alert, I am not going to use Hidden Power at all in this playthrough, so I just pick it up and waste some time here. Anyways, it's not going to matter. Remember, I rank all of my Pokemon based on their second playthrough, not on their first playthrough. I teleport back to Ecruteak City, head west, pick up the Mint Berry and a Nugget. I also defeat all the trainers on my way to Olivine City, and here I am going to do my errands that I normally do after Morty, but that's because I specifically want to defeat every trainer in the lighthouse. After all, backtracking to the rival now, does it make sense? I don't actually know if Koffing can defeat him, but Koffing is really not going to defeat Morty. One of the downsides to this approach is that I had to heal in Olivine City, but on my way back to Ecruteak City, I can just battle these trainers that I skipped on the way there, and then I head into Burn Tower to face the rival. For this fight, I'm obviously going to need a move other than Sludge, especially against the Haunter, so I teach Koffing Rollout in the place of Tackle. Let's see if this is enough. I go for it against the Haunter. It doesn't do quite enough for it to get knocked out after it uses Curse, but my next hit takes it down, and in Generation 2, you don't take Curse damage if you knock the opposing Pokemon out. So that's really good because Rollout is now set up, and I am hoping that it is going to one-shot the Magnemite. And it does. Okay, that's perfect. How long is Koffing going to roll? Well, it takes the Zubat down, and then it also takes the Quilava down, so I've done it. So with that battle out of the way, I have now cleared the way to Morty. So the hope in this fight is that Rollout is going to do enough to the first Ghastly so that it knocks itself out with Curse. That way I won't take any damage against his first Pokemon. Luckily, things do play out this way. Now that Rollout is set up, I am really hoping that I'm going to one-shot the Haunter, then the Gengar, and then the final Haunter. The first one goes down, next is Gengar, his ace. I don't miss, so I knock it out as well, and all that's left is the final Haunter. Please say I can do this, and I do. So Koffing has earned itself the 4th badge. So where to next? I could go and face Chuck, but I don't think that that's the best idea. After all, once I defeat the Rockets in Mahogany Town, I'm going to get access to the TM for Sludge Bomb, so let's go and do that next. By the way, when I was teaching Koffing this move, there's some obvious choices to get rid of. Smokescreen and Haze are both, really not going to get used very much. You may notice in some of my challenges that I hold on to moves that lower accuracy probably longer than I should. In these cases, I really think that I've just been trained by the AI, because whenever they lower my accuracy, it just feels like the worst worst thing ever, but using these moves against the AI just really isn't that effective of a strategy. Now with Sludge Bomb on my side, I'm gonna face Price next. He leads with Seal, and this is perfect for Koffing because I can use it to set up rollout. I take it down over 2 turns. Next is Dugong. Of course it outspeeds, hits Aurora Beam, gets a critical hit doing so much. Luckily, my next rollout knocks it out, and all that's left is Piloswine. Now, it is a dual ice ground type, so it only takes neutral damage from rollout, but since this is my 4th hit with it, I easily take Price's ace out in 1 turn. So his badge gives me a boost to my special attack stat. You will notice that my special defense stat doesn't change at all. This is because of a glitch, and unfortunately, because Koffing has fairly low special attack, I don't think that my special defense is ever going to get a boost. The unboosted special attack value would have to be above 205 for that to happen. I head into Chuck's gym next, and Koffing is quite overleveled at this point, and it hasn't really struggled anywhere. Like, yes, it did need to take its time against Bugsy, and Morty was kind of awful because it didn't decide to go with Hidden Power Ground, but overall, this thing is really not struggling the way I thought it would. And I really don't think that Chuck is going to be any different. After all, Poison type resists Fighting type moves. He leads with Primeape. I go for Sludge Bomb, and it takes it out in 1 hit, so that's nice. Next is Poliwrath. I do more than half to it. It strikes back with Surf, doing very little, and then I finish it off on the next turn. So I've earned myself the 5th badge. And with it, I get the power to fly, and now the only gym leader left for me to defeat is Jasmine. So I have to knock out 2 Magnemites and a Steelix with, like, rollout, I guess? Also, the Magnemites love to use Thunder Wave, so I am definitely going to be paralyzed throughout this fight. So what's Koffing's best option? Now, if I was really thinking things through, I would have chosen Hidden Power Ground for this challenge. I ended up choosing Hidden Power Bug because I was like, Psychic types are really strong, I should have that move. But Hidden Power Ground would have been much more useful. Again, Hidden Power Ground is like the default physical Hidden Power type, so yeah, it would have been the boring option once again. I'm actually really happy that I made the mistake and chose Hidden Power Bug in this case, because now I'm going to have to solve the problem that is Jasmine in another way. And this is like the most flavorful thing ever. So in Goldenrod City, in the game corner, you can buy the TM for Fire Blast for 5,500 coins. Unfortunately, at this point, I don't have enough money to buy all of these coins. I sold a bunch of items, came back, and no, I can still only buy 3,500 coins. So it doesn't look like this is going to work out at this time. Now, Koffing is probably going to need to be very overleveled to defeat Red at the end of the game, so let's do some additional training now. After all, this is going to give me more money to buy coins. I defeat the trainers at C, leveling Koffing up to level 45, and then I decide to face Jasmine just to see if it is possible at this level. After all, I do have rollout in the Hardstone, so this might be possible. She leads with Magnemite. I go for rollout and it takes it out over 3 hits. The unfortunate thing here is that I'm paralyzed, which is dramatically reducing my consistency, but luckily Koffing moves against the second Magnemite and knocks it out, so my combo is still set up. Okay, so this is the 5th turn with rollout. I am going to get maximum damage against the Steelix. This is perfect. And yeah, then it does this much damage. Like, this is not going to be possible with rollout. I don't think I need to state that right now. I did try to use Smokescreen here because Irontail has trash accuracy, and I was like, maybe I can survive long enough to get like 1,000,000 rollouts in and knock the Steelix out. But no, that doesn't work, and it knocks Koffing out. I did try this fight again. I was like, maybe with a Paralyzed Cure Berry it will be better. But no, this is not going to work. As a result, I am going to need Fire Blast. I head south of Goldenrod City. I pick up this nugget and rare candy. After all, I have to come here anyways at some point during the playthrough. And then I continue south over to this little hidden area. I bet most of you don't even know that this place exists. As a kid, I never went here, so it was a big surprise to me when I started making videos for this channel, and I was like, where's the soft sand? Yeah, the soft sand is over here. Anyways, I'm defeating these people because they give experience as well as money. After all that, I only have 4,000 coins, so I still need 1,500, which is a lot. Next, I went to the national park because there are some trainers here that I didn't defeat, and I'm like, I might as well fight them, get some money. One major frustration that I was dealing with at this point in the playthrough is the fact that I would really like to defeat the Rockets in Radio Tower and earn all of that money, but I can't actually do that until I defeat Jasmine, so there is no other option at this point. Well, that's not entirely true, and what it eventually comes down to is the fact that I've defeated pretty much every trainer in the region, and I still do not have enough coins to get Fire Blast. I went back to Jasmine and I was like, maybe I'll get lucky with rollout. No, I'm not going to get lucky with rollout. So the solution in this case is to unfortunately gamble. So I have never had to do this in any of my playthroughs, like in any game. I am thinking about it a lot in relation to Generation 3. After all, gambling enough to earn one of the Game Corner TMs would have really helped a Pokemon like Delibird. One of the main reasons that I've really resisted doing this in my playthroughs in the past is just the fact that it's so luck-based, and I have no idea how long it is going to take me for a Pokemon to earn all of the coins that it needs. Granted, what I did find out when I was doing this is that it's a lot easier to get the 777s than I thought it was going to be, and as long as I save after I get every big payout, I am going to earn enough money that eventually I will be able to buy a Fire Blast. So I started gambling at around 1 hour and 14 minutes. Let's see how long this takes for me to earn all of the coins that I need. Well, it didn't actually take very long because just after 1 hour and 20 minutes, I get the jackpot that I need, and with that, I am able to finally buy the TM for Fire Blast. Next, I backtrack to Azalea Town where I pick up the Charcoal, and then I can use this item to boost the power of Fire Blast against Jasmine. With this powerful move, I one-shot both of the Magnemites, and then I even one-shot the Steelix. So yeah, Jasmine was like basically impossible, and now she was extremely easy. So let's skip to the end of the Rocket plotline. After all, it is very easy for Koffing. And during this section of the game, I was able to replace Sludge with Return, but I want to mention something here. So I did make the update to my rule set where I'm only going to use Hidden Power during my second playthrough. And I'm not going to apply the same logic to Return. After all, it's just kind of a powerful normal type move that most Pokemon can learn. I know it's not that interesting, but it doesn't bother me as much as Hidden Power does. Now, something here with Koffing is that Sludge Bomb is just going to be much better than Return in most cases. Yes, with Venomoth, I really should have been using Sludge Bomb more. Anyways, please forgive me. Now, let's take on Clair. What I was really hoping here is that the Poison Barb with Sludge Bomb would be enough to one-shot all of the Dragonairs, and in this case, that's what happens. So I sweep through her team and make it all the way to the final Kingdra. Sludge Bomb does about 3/4, Kingdra strikes back with Surf doing a little bit more than 1/3, and then even though Clair tries to heal her ace, I am able to knock it out. Along the routes towards the league, I continue fighting trainers. I just really want to make sure Koffing is as high a level as possible. There's one last major battle before the Elite Four, which is the battle against the rival. I'm not really worried about this one. After all, I have answers to most of the Pokemon on his team. Sludge Bomb one hits the Sneasel, one hits the Kadabra. Then against the Golbat, I use Return. I really didn't want to miss with Fire Blast. It just barely hangs on, uses Confuse Ray. I hit myself, but then I knock it out. After that, there's Magneton. It definitely makes sense to use Fire Blast here. It goes down in one hit. Haunter's next, Fire Blast is able to take it out, and now all that's left is the Typhlosion. In this case, my Sludge Bomb doesn't knock it out, and it does get to go for Flame Wheel, but Koffing shrugs it off, and with that, I have made it to the Elite Four. Will's up first, and this technically should be a challenge for Koffing, but I don't know if that's going to be the case. After all, Will is not really known for being that challenging. He leads with a level 40 Xatu. I go for Sludge Bomb, and it knocks it out in one hit. Okay, that's a good start. Next is Jinx. Sludge Bomb also gets the one hit. Then he sends in Slowbro, and this thing really likes to slow Pokemon down. Luckily, Sludge Bomb's first hit does enough damage that I get the 2-hit on it. So yeah, this fight is very easy. I one-shot the Ace Xatu, as well as the Executor, and with that, I've cleared the first member of the league. Koga's next, and here Fire Blast is very useful. It one-shots the Ariados, the following Venomoth, despite it being a water type, and then finally the Fortress. After that, I only have 1 PP left, so I decided to use Return instead to take out the Muck. It does it over 2 turns. Last is Crobat, and it goes down over 2 turns as well. So that's it, I've made it to Bruno. And in these games, he's actually quite good. First is Hitmontop. I go for Sludge Bomb, and it knocks it out in one hit. Next is Onix. I make a mistake. I go for Sludge Bomb. It does so little. So next turn, I go for Fire Blast. After all, Onix doesn't have very high special defense. It doesn't quite knock it out, and as a result, Koffing is taking a lot of chip damage. After getting hit by Sandstorm when the Hitmonlee comes out, I have less than half health. Sludge Bomb 1 hits the following Hitmonchan, and all that's left is Machamp, but Koffing only has 44 hit points. Sludge Bomb does more than half to Bruno's ace. It strikes back with Rock Slide. Koffing survives, and with that, I've won. This attempt at the league is feeling very typical for a Johto playthrough. The first two members are quite easy, and then Bruno starts to get a little bit more challenging. And now it's time to move on to Karen, who is typically the trainer that gives Pokemon their first reset during the league. And that's because she leads with Umbreon. This thing is so tanky, and it loves to set up Sand Attack and Confuse Ray to mess you up before the rest of the fight continues. However, in Generation 2, the AI is hard-coded to have a 25% chance to miss all status moves. So in this case, Sand Attack just misses, and then my second Sludge Bomb takes Karen's lead out. Next is Vileplume. I go for Fire Blast, and that's a one-hit. Karen sends in Gengar next. Okay, I don't really have a good move here, so I should probably go for Fire Blast. Making matters even worse is the fact that Gengar outspeeds, so it gets a chance to put a curse on Koffing before I knock it out with Fire Blast. However, that's not that bad because I just one-shot the Murkrow and avoid damage on this turn. Last is Karen's ace, Houndoom. It moves first, hitting Flamethrower, which does about a third to me, and then my Sludge Bomb doesn't get the one hit. I take curse damage. Karen uses a max potion, healing Houndoom to full health. My next Sludge Bomb takes it back to red health, but because of curse damage and the fact that the Houndoom is moving first, Koffing ends up falling. So, yep, that is my first reset during the league. However, this fight against Karen really isn't that tricky. I make it back to the Houndoom in my next attempt. I tried to go for Return here because that'll do less damage. I was hoping that Karen wouldn't be in potion range so that she wouldn't heal and then I'd knock it out on the next turn, but that doesn't play out and the Houndoom knocks Koffing out again. For the next fight, I decided to switch things up because I thought I can bring the Poison Barb in to just do more damage to the Houndoom, but the issue here is that then the Vileplume paralyzes me, so now I'm slow and inconsistent and it's really frustrating. Because of that, I take some chip damage and I only have about 2/3 health left over when the Houndoom finally comes out. Okay, Sludge Bomb, please do enough damage. And in this case, it does. So I've cleared Karen, and now it's time for Lance. He leads with Gyarados, and I go for Sludge Bomb here, which gets a lucky Poison. The damage doesn't quite do enough to knock it out, which is a bit frustrating, so I take it out with my next Sludge Bomb. After all, that first Gyarados really likes to set up Rain Dance, which doesn't do very much for the following Dragonite that comes out. However, Sludge Bomb does only a little bit more than half to it, and as a result, it paralyzes me with Thunder Wave. I take some damage, knock it out, and move on to the next Dragonite. Because of paralysis, I'm taking damage every turn. Yes, in this case, even Koffing, with its terrible base speed, would move faster than most of Lance's team. It actually only gets outsped naturally by the Aerodactyl and the Charizard at this level. So as a result of the paralysis, when Aerodactyl hits the field, I finally lose. However, there's an easy solution to this because if I bring the Paralyzed Cure Berry into the fight, then the first Dragonite won't be able to paralyze me. Well, it won't be able to either if I just get a critical hit. Alright, that was some good luck. Now the second one won't be able to paralyze me, which is excellent, because I'm going to move on to the rest of the fight without the status condition, and that means I will outspeed the final Dragonite. But before that, I am going to have to make it through the Aerodactyl and the Charizard. The first one up is the Prehistoric Pokemon. I go for Sludge Bomb against it. Yes, this move has the highest effective power out of any of my choices. It almost gets the KO, does cause poison. I take a bit of damage and then I knock it out on the next turn. Next, Lance sends in Charizard. I decided to go for Rollout here because it does do 4 times damage, but unfortunately Charizard hangs on with orange health, strikes back with Flamethrower, and Koffing faints. So the potential solution to this is if I can get through the Dragonites without getting paralyzed, I do in the next fight because of the 25% chance to miss on Thunder Wave. Then I can set up Rollout against the Aerodactyl. After all, it's going to be a 2-hit with Sludge Bomb anyways. Because of that, I'm rolling by the time Charizard hits the field. I just barely survived Flamethrower on 5 hit points, 1 hit it, and now it's time for the moment of truth. I need to not miss against the final Dragonite. Koffing doesn't, and with that, I've defeated the league. So it's time to head off to Kanto, and I'm really looking forward to get Janine's badge boost. It has been way too long without one. I'll quickly describe the order of the early portion of Kanto, because normally I fight like Erica and then Sabrina, or Sabrina and then Erica, but today I am going to put off Sabrina for quite a while. The Alakazam is going to hit way too hard with Psychic, and so I want to be the maximum level before I take her on. As a result, after finishing up the plot line, I take on Misty, and actually, things get a little bit close here. Like, I'm on orange health by the time I defeat the Starmie. Nice, at least I made it through the battle. Surge is next. He doesn't cause me any problems. I catch myself the Snorlax. After all, it holds leftovers, and this item could be very useful for Koffing. Next is Brock. And I really didn't want to go to the Pokemon Center. Like, you can see that I'm not fully healed for this fight. I was thinking that I could just use Rollout to do decent damage to his Pokemon. Like, I know it's resisted, but like this Rhyhorn is level 41. It's not doing very much damage, so that's not going to be the best bet. After all, Koffing has low health. Omastar's next. By the way, I just want to say it's really cool that a gym leader has the fossil Pokemon. Anyways, I'm not able to take it out and Koffing goes down. It is a frustrating day when I have a loss against a Kanto gym leader. Just by not using Rollout on the Rhyhorn though, I don't take as much damage, and that leads me to victory against Marowak on my next attempt. As I head south towards Viridian City, I'll just mention a cute little rooting thing that I don't think I've mentioned in a produced video before. When I pass by the Viridian City Pokemon Center, I make sure that I always enter it. In this case, I also want to heal because my PP is getting low, but normally I'll just exit the center right away, and this is just so that I set my teleport point here. That way, after I defeat Janine, I can just teleport back here so that I'm close to where Blue's gym is. But before I get to her, I have to face Blaine. First up is Magcargo. This Pokemon does not have a particularly good typing, and despite being very cool, it is not very strong. So I can just set up Rollout here, which is perfect because then it's going to have built momentum by the time the rest of his team comes out. Magmar's next. Unfortunately, Rollout misses. It uses Confuse Ray. Koffing hits itself. Magmar sets up Sunny Day. I hit myself again. It fire punches me under half health. My next Rollout doesn't do enough to knock it out. It takes Koffing down to 22 hit points. And yeah, while I do take it out on the next turn, Rapidash is next. And like its name suggests, it is fast. So it moves first, hits Fire Blast, and Koffing faints. That is a second loss to a Kanto gym leader. So there's no adjustment for this strategy. I just need Rollout not to miss on the Magmar. And in this case, it doesn't, so I just one-hit it. Rapidash just goes for Fury Attack in this case, which is not very good. I guess Blaine and Price are probably friends, like they're probably around the same age. With him out of the way, I have to defeat Janine, and she is very easy, like so easy. After I defeat her, you can see that Sludge Bomb's effective power goes up to 152, so that is really nice. Outside her gym, I use Teleport, heading back to Viridian City, and now it's time to face Blue. Pidgeot's up first. It goes for Wing Attack, which does not very much. I hit Sludge Bomb. It takes the bird to orange health. It uses Mirror Move to copy Sludge Bomb, which is really not a good play on the next turn, so I take it out. Blue sends in Alakazam next. By the way, it's level 54. It moves first, hits Psychic, and yeah, that's it. So you will have noticed that I haven't faced Sabrina yet, and yes, you don't actually have to face Blue last of all the gym leaders in Kanto. I always thought that you did as a kid, but you really don't. I figured this out when I just accidentally forgot to do Misty one time. In this case, since Sabrina's Alakazam is at a lower level, I think facing her now makes more sense. She leads with Espeon, I outspeed, hitting Sludge Bomb, and I take it out in one hit. Next is Mr. Mime, and Sludge Bomb also one hits it, so that leads to the Alakazam. But even a level 48 Alakazam with no stat experience, when my level 67 Koffing has stat experience, yeah, this Alakazam still moves first, hits Psychic, doing massive damage, but Koffing survives, uses Sludge Bomb, and knocks it out. I went back to Blue, tried again, but still the Alakazam just knocks me out with one Psychic, so I'm going to need to do something else first. So I started wondering if Koffing would survive that Psychic if it had full health. So if I take the Magnet Train back to Johto, then I can use the Move Tutor to teach Koffing Thunderbolt. So what I'm hoping for here is that I one-shot the Pidgeot so that I only take one turn of damage against it. It goes for Wing Attack, doing 21 damage to me, and then I knock it out with one hit. Okay, so I have a little bit more health for the Alakazam now. Will I survive? Yes, with 5 hit points. My Sludge Bomb hits and it takes the powerful Psychic type out. But then Blue sends in Rhydon next. Yeah, it knows to Earthquake, so I am not going to live through this. In the next fight, I examined Alakazam's speed stat, and it is 148. Koffing only has 115 speed right now. As a result, if I use 10 rare candies, I still don't think that I would move first against the Alakazam, and that seems a little bit premature because am I going to be able to beat Red around level 78 to 80? I don't think so. However, there is another way to get by the Alakazam. I can just wait until the Quick Claw activates. No, this is not very fun or consistent. Still, 25% of the time it is going to allow Koffing to move first. In this case, after my 20th reset, it does. I take the Alakazam out and I move on to the Rhydon with green health. Okay, that's perfect. I know it resists Fire Blast, but it's a special move, so it is my best bet. But still, Koffing only has orange health left over for the Gyarados. I have Thunderbolt, so I knock it out. Arcanine comes out, but I don't have quite enough health to survive, so that's another loss. I had to make a choice here. Obviously teaching Koffing Rest and let's say Curse here would allow me to win this fight, but I'm not sure if I want to give up any of my current moves, and I also think I'm going to need more levels for Red, so I'm going to invest some time in training now. And this grind has a goal. If you watch my speed stat, I want Koffing to have 122 speed, because this is what's going to allow it to always move first against the Pidgeot, so it'll sustain no damage in that portion of the fight. When I hit level 71, I have the speed I need, so I head back to face Blue again. Now I can one-hit his lead with Thunderbolt and then move on to the Alakazam and roll for the Quick Claw right away. I get lucky, move on to the Rhydon where I actually get a burn, which is really nice, reducing its damage, and then I one-shot the Gyarados, moving on to the Arcanine with green health. Unfortunately, because it's outspeeding, it is able to use Flamethrower, taking Koffing down to 4 hit points, and as a result, I'm going to lose this fight. However, in the next attempt, I make it back to the Arcanine with a little bit more health, and I knock it out over 2 turns. All that's left is the Executor. I hit it with Sludge Bomb, and it goes down. So Koffing has cleared all but one trainer in the game. And here I'll just mention how I do this final fight. I'm always going to use my rare candies here to make my Pokemon the highest possible level, so I have a good chance of defeating Red. But I'm going to save before I do that because I want to make sure that I can reset and train at a lower level if possible. That's because at a lower level you need less experience points to level up. What this does mean though is that every time I reset, there is a lot of time bloat that occurs. So to prevent that, I really want to figure out as fast as possible if I can win this fight or if I need more training. So let's do this. Let's take on Red for the first time. He leads with Pikachu and, oh, that's a problem right away. It's gonna use Charm and lower Koffing's attack. Okay, I should have anticipated that and taught Protect. And things get even worse because on the next turn it just lowers my attack again. So I do make it to the Espeon, but it has 184 speed, which is 43 more than Koffing. It moves first, hits Psychic, and yeah, it knocks me out in a single hit. So this fight feels pretty hopeless. I guess I have to train, like, there is no way that I'm doing it at that level. I do this in Mount Silver. By the way, yes, you can defeat the Elite Four again, but I'm not sure that that's the best approach. After all, if you hit a damage rounding threshold like level 75, when you're at Karen, then you still have to beat Lance, and that's kind of like time bloat when you might only need level 75. So I prefer training here just because it is more flexible. By the way, I actually run into a Pupitar here. I did not know that they existed right beside Red. Anyways, that's cool. So now at level 85, let's try this again. Against Pikachu, I can use Protect, preventing Charm. That way I preserve my attack stat. And then it gets really lucky and paralyzes me with Thunder. So that's really bad. At least in Generation 2, when you use Rest, it restores your speed stat. I move on to the Espeon. I'm not going to move first here anyways. He goes for Psychic and once again takes Koffing out in a single hit. So try this fight a couple more times. I eventually started using a very Generation 2 moveset of Sludge Bomb, Rest, Protect, and Curse. But there's a problem with this set. And it's actually the same problem that a Pokemon like Tyranitar had against Red. If you set up against the Pikachu, which is definitely possible with both Koffing and Tyranitar, then when the Espeon comes out, you still just have to roll the dice. In Tyranitar's case, it's going to be hit by one Mud Slap because it will always be slower, so it always has the chance to miss. And does it really make sense to roll the Mud Slap dice every time after setting up curses? Because you've bloated the time for the fight. And in this case, when Espeon comes out, yeah, just Koffing gets completely wasted because it's nowhere near as good as Tyranitar. So I actually trained up one more level because I was like, well, I should go to level 88 or like 90 and see if I can survive. But as I was doing this training, there was a question nagging at me, which is, will Sludge Bomb one-hit the Espeon if I actually get to attack it? Well, I can use the Quick Claw to find out. However, in this case, Pikachu misses Thunder, so I move on to the Espeon with full health for the first time. Oh, I actually forgot the Quick Claw for this fight, so I guess I'm going to have to survive. And Koffing does on 16 hit points. Because of my leftovers, I recover a little bit of health, but I think that Snorlax is just going to try and knock me out. I go for Protect to see if it sees the damage range, and it does. It's trying to use Body Slam. That's because it knows it can knock me out with it. Because of the leftovers, I gain back a little bit more health, and I went for the risky play of using Curse to set up and improve my defense. I survived the next body slam just barely, and then I use Rest. Obviously now it's just a matter of time before I'm fully set up and I can knock the Snorlax out. Next is Venusaur. It's just going to either go for Sunny Day or for Solar Beam. In this case, it sets up the sun and I knock it out with Sludge Bomb. It's a bit unfortunate because next is Charizard. It hits a sun-boosted Flamethrower, which doesn't knock Koffing out, and I take it down. Next is Blastoise. Now I had to do some quick mental math here. Is it going to choose Surf, Rain Dance, or Blizzard? If it sees that it can get a KO on Koffing with either Surf or Blizzard, it will use one of those moves. But if it doesn't see that it can get a KO, it's going to set up with Rain Dance. And eventually, though, I just figured out this doesn't matter. It's going to move first. It goes for Blizzard. Koffing survives, hits Sludge Bomb, and with that, I have beat Pokemon Crystal. It took 3 hours, 7 minutes, and 8 seconds of real time. I had 29 resets, and Koffing finished the game at level 86. This took 10 hours and 32 minutes of game time. Alright, so using a Pokemon without evolution obviously made things much harder, and I think that this playthrough actually ended up being quite interesting. But I'm not done yet because I want to optimize and see just how much better I can make Koffing's results. Okay, so in this follow-up playthrough, I think there are going to be 2 things that I can do to gain a lot of time throughout the Johto portion of the game. The first one is I can just preemptively train for Bugsy so that I don't have to have any resets here. After all, I know I'm just going to need level 21 to get Sludge Bomb. With it, I can take an easy victory over him, and Koffing still has no resets. Against the rival outside of Azalea Town, it is very important to use the Paralyzed Cure Berry, because at this level, Sludge is not going to one-hit the Ghastly, like obviously it has a double resistance to Poison-type moves. So I want to ensure that if it uses Lick, it isn't going to cause paralysis. And that's so that I move first against the following Zubat, and so that paralysis doesn't prevent my moves against the Quilava. After all, Ember does decent damage to Koffing, and it can burn me, which would be an awful situation. So I'm able to defeat the rival on my first attempt as well. I fight a lot of trainers in the next section of the game, and I also teach Rollout to Koffing immediately. Now you might think that this move would be good against Whitney. After all, it seems like the developers positioned both the Rollout TM and Fury Cutter at points in the game where they could allow you to get through Whitney more easily. However, Koffing has an 88% chance to one-hit the Clefairy with Sludge, and it has a guaranteed 3-hit on the Miltank. I calculated the damage that the Miltank's rollout will do to Koffing, and it doesn't do enough to knock me out even if it hits every one of its hits. So I'm using Sludge here specifically because of the higher accuracy. After all, I could set up rollout and then have it miss, and I would be in a worse position then. And now it's time for a major change in the run because I am going to allow Hidden Power to be used. So which Pokemon did Koffing struggle with the most? Obviously, Jasmine's Steel types, they were awful, and I can use Hidden Power Ground to solve this problem. First though, I have to get by this Dugtrio. It rolls Magnitude 9, doing so much to Koffing, like, if only I could have one hit. And then on the next turn, it outspeeds, hits Tri-Attack, and freezes me. Are you actually kidding? Like in this case, I saved before Whitney, so I'm gonna have to restart the entire playthrough if I lose here. Luckily in Generation 2, when the opponent uses Tri-Attack, it actually has a 1/3 chance of defrosting you if you're frozen. I guess that's because Tri-Attack is sometimes like a fire move. It isn't actually a fire move, but it's like a fire move. Anyways, in this case, it defrosts Koffing and I knock the Dugtrio out. He still does have a Geodude, but I managed to beat it just barely, and so I don't have to restart this playthrough. I grab Hidden Power Ground, and then against the rival in Burn Tower, I have a guaranteed one hit against the Haunter, the Magnemite, obviously, and then for the Zubat and the Quilava, I set up Rollout. In this case, it actually misses against his ace, but I can just use Hidden Power and finish it off in one hit anyways. Morty's next, and I did make one mistake here. I should have the Mint Berry, because while Koffing can outspeed 3 of his Pokemon, the Gengar is going to move first. It hits Hypnosis, putting Koffing to sleep, hits Dream Eater, taking me down to orange health, but luckily I wake up and Hidden Power does have a guaranteed one hit. So with that, I've earned myself the 4th badge, albeit a little bit sloppily. So in this playthrough, I'm going to order the mid-game differently. Last time I went to the Rocket Hideout, completed that section of the game, earned myself Sludge Bomb, defeated Price, and then I went to Chuck. However, in this case, I'm going to fight all the trainers at sea because I need this training, and then I'm going to take on Chuck immediately. I find it hilarious here that the Hitmonchan does not get one hit. Yes, I just barely don't knock it out. It freezes me with Ice Punch. Like, Koffing has been frozen twice in this playthrough alone. And then Hitmonchan uses Fire Punch and defrosts Koffing. I can't believe that the opponent has defrosted me twice in this playthrough. Like, that's ridiculous. Anyways, let's move on to Chuck and talk about the damage ranges here. Without Sludge Bomb, I have a 90% chance to one-shot the Primeape. I get the favorable damage range in this fight. Next is Poliwrath, and I have an 84% chance to 2-hit. The thing is, Koffing is outspeeding, and the Poliwrath only has an 18% chance to 3-hit me, and these numbers don't factor in poison. If I got poison, then I would 2-hit the Poliwrath, so I figured that this was safe enough, and with that I've earned myself Fly and greater mobility in the mid-game. Next, I take on the Rocket Hideout. I just have to say, like, this is how Hidden Power makes these playthroughs trivial. Previously, this scientist with 3 Magnemite was so annoying to defeat, but now I just one-shot all of his Pokemon, so yeah, this is why I really like Hidden Power Ground, because random trainers like this are just so much faster. Next is Price, and I can't believe I'm saying this after the performance that Blaine put out, but yeah, Price is actually not really easy for Koffing. Sludge Bomb or Hidden Power are going to be 3 hits on the Piloswine. In this case, I'm going for Sludge Bomb because it has the chance to poison. Anyways, I don't get it, and I think if Price used one more Blizzard here, he might have won. After all, he could have frozen Koffing, but it doesn't happen, and I earn myself the 7th badge. So now let's see what Hidden Power does to Jasmine. Well, it one-hits both of her Magnemites. That's very obvious. Last is her Steelix, and Hidden Power has a guaranteed 3-hit here. I was sort of hoping that it would do a little bit less damage so that she wouldn't use a Hyper Potion, but she does in this case, so theoretically I'll have to survive an additional hit as a result, but in this case the Steelix just misses. After all, Iron Tail is very inaccurate. So yeah, that's an easy victory. Koffing still has no resets. Now here's an implication of Hidden Power that I think most of you won't be thinking about. Because previously I had to buy Fire Blast, which took a lot of money, but this time I can just spend all of that money buying vitamins. Remember, I had to fight all the same trainers because Koffing is going to need these levels for Red. Yeah, the situation with Red is actually much worse than I thought it was last time. Anyways, we'll get there when we get there. So by using Hidden Power to be more easily able to finish off Steel types and Ghost types, like I know Ghost is not weak to ground, but like all the Ghost Pokemon in this game have the Poison type. Now that I have Sludge Bomb, I'm able to easily sweep through Clair's team and move on to the league. Will is just as easy as he was last time. Against Koga, I don't have Fire Blast, so this fight is like, I guess you could call it harder. It is like theoretically more challenging. Yes, the Fortress does take 4 hits to knock out, so I guess it's slower, but still it's easy and I'm able to take a first attempt victory. Bruno's next, and it plays out exactly the same as last time. Sandstorm does the majority of the damage to Koffing, and while Machamp can get an attack in, it's not enough to finish me off and I win. Karen's up next. For this fight, the Paralyzed Cure Berry is very important so that paralysis doesn't mess me up against the Houndoom. After all, I am not able to one-shot the Vileplume ever. Gengar's next. It does outspeed, so it's going to get Curse in, but that's not the biggest issue. After all, Sludge Bomb can take the Murkrow out in 1 hit, so I avoid damage. And I actually make it to the Houndoom with full health. I'm going to have to survive 1 hit from Flamethrower, but once again, Hidden Power to the rescue because it gives me a 1-shot against the Houndoom. So going into the fight with Lance, which I am just going to win using Rollout, obviously, I just want to mention how much Hidden Power changes how this playthrough feels. I think it's very clear to me that Hidden Power is the thing that has been leveling off the difficulty in all of my challenges, and I'm actually really excited to follow this approach, because using it in the second playthrough really will show us just how good this Pokemon can be if it has the optimal Hidden Power. But then we also get to see the unique and interesting strategies that come about when I have to solve my problems without it. Okay, so there's only 2 more Pokemon on Lance's team. Unfortunately, Rollout ends just before Charizard comes out. It outspeeds with Flamethrower, burns Koffing. As a result, Rollout does very little. I take burn damage, and then Flamethrower knocks Koffing out. Okay. That was unfortunate. So I planned this fight out so that I would just barely survive Charizard's attacks and then win on the next Dragonite by hitting Rollout. In this case, the damage that Burn dealt was enough for the Charizard to knock me out. Like, I can't believe it. So frustrating. Anyways, I managed to take the victory on my next attempt. So let's talk about Blue. For this fight, I'm going to use Sludge Bomb, Curse, Rollout, Rest, and the Leftovers. Essentially, because the Pidgeot can't deal very much damage to me, and it doesn't know to use Whirlwind, I just set up here, knock it out, move on to the Alakazam, and if I've done that, then yeah, in this case it just uses Reflect, probably because I have full health, and it knows that it should set up, and then I move on to the Rhydon. Now here, I could choose to set up rollout, but I'm not sure if that's the best choice, so just go for Sludge Bomb and knock it out over 4 turns. After all, I have a really great attack stat. Next is Gyarados, and I'm going to buy my time here because Rain boosted Hydro Pump does a lot of damage, but eventually it's going to have to set the Rain up again, and it's going to miss Hydro Pump. Or if it doesn't, it will just run out of PP, start using Twister, and then I knock it out with Sludge Bomb. That way I have a lot of health for the Arcanine so I can survive its Flamethrower and knock it out with Sludge Bomb. Last is Executor, and I finish it off in 1 turn. So Koffing has cleared all but 1 threat, and red really is the hardest portion of the game for this poison type. Now in yellow, the champion's Alakazam is very strong because it has 156 speed, which is quite fast. But in this case, the Espeon has 184 speed, and that fact alone means that Koffing has to use the Quick Claw to get by it. What I didn't realize is that at level 85, which was the level that I faced red previously, Koffing only has like around a 25% chance to one-hit the Espeon. So it would have to get the 23% chance to move first, and then get the 25% chance to one-hit the Espeon, which is what happened last time, by the way, so I just got very lucky. But in this case, I don't want this fight to be that lucky. So I'm going to go in at level 88, and this is a compromise. That's because Sludge Bomb only has a 74% chance to one-hit the Espeon. By the way, at level 90, so over the next damage rounding threshold, Koffing would have a 98% chance to one-hit the Espeon. However, I wanted to be slightly risky and see if I could squeeze out a slightly better time with Koffing. In my first fight against red, I get the lucky Quick Claw activation, and it one-hits the Espeon, so that's what I needed. Now that I've made it to the Snorlax, this fight is much easier. I set up Cursed, buy my time with Rest, and then I knock it out. So the final 3 Pokemon on Red's team can be annoying because they can outspeed and do damage to Koffing. After all, a sun-boosted Flamethrower is quite powerful. However, just having the Quick Claw here gives me the potential for some really lucky scenarios like this. I move first against the Venusaur, knocking it out in 1 hit. I move first against the Charizard, knocking it out in 1 hit. And because I did that, I get to the Blastoise with green health. And so it's like, yeah, I can't one-hit him, I'm just gonna set up Rain Dance. And as a result, Sludge Bomb takes it out. So Koffing clocks in with a time of 2 hours, 14 minutes, and 36 seconds. It had 1 reset and it finished the game at level 88. And this took 8 hours and 45 minutes of game time. So that is a major improvement to my real time, my resets, and my game time. I finished a couple levels higher, but I think that's just the sign of good play as long as your game time and your real time is lower. So now let's talk about my leaderboard, because I have all this data and it's like really overwhelming to look at. So for convenience for the videos, I have made it into a nice, beautiful tier list. So this is how things stand at the beginning of the year. You will note that some Pokemon like Lantern, Piloswine, and Houndoom have been removed. The reason is that they had to evolve throughout their playthrough, so it doesn't really make sense to compare them. So what spot does Koffing's results earn it? Well, unfortunately, it's slower than both Gligar and Smeargle, but it was faster than Misdreavus. Honestly, the reason I think that was the case is just Koffing is more reliable than the Ghost. Psywave is absolutely terrible and tanks the early portion of its playthrough. So today, Koffing earns itself a spot at the end of the E tier. So now I'm going to do an official announcement. I am starting a supporters exclusive series. So if you support me directly with YouTube memberships or on Patreon, there are going to be some fully produced videos that are only available to you. The first series that I'm going to do this way is a 12-part series in Pokemon Fire Red, where I evolve throughout the playthroughs. I'm going to be playing the game with all the starters, Mewtwo, and a bunch of other awesome Pokemon. And I think that this is going to be a really fun way for me to learn the game. So if you want to get access to that exclusive content, click the join button on YouTube or click on the link in the description and head over to my Patreon. This is my way to say thank you to everyone who directly supports me. I've felt really bad about not having exclusive content for you over the last year. Anyways, it is finally going to start rolling out sometime in the next week or 2. Like, subscribe, ring the chime echo, and comment because I gotta read them all. And I am trying to read them all from December, but it's taking me a while. If you made it this far, you're incredible. I'll see you in my next video.